That was the first time that the teenager started to rule, and he's ruled ever since.
We figure that it's more fun to fool around with a time period which you're familiar with, which you know. And the 50s were great because we've all had the experience of looking through our parents' high school yearbook. There they are. There's mom, there's dad, but it's not. I mean, they don't look anything the same. They're skinny, they're beautiful. You say, no way.
It's a fantasy. I think all kinds of people wonder what it'll be like to see their parents when they're young.
It's like, you know, when you're a kid and your father and your mother tell you the things that they did as a kid, you know, like walking 12 miles to school and doing their homework on a shovel. You know, it'd be interesting to go back and see if it were really true. Like all mothers, Marty's mom told him that she grew up without any vices. And so when Marty goes back in time and sees her as a teenager, he's in for quite a shock.
Geez, you smoke too?
Marty, you're beginning to sound just like my mother.
Okay, let's shoot. The most fun for me was having these young actors age and play 30 years older than they really are. Much more difficult than doing like 80 or 90 or 70 years old, because then you can get real decrepit and old. But when you're going from 17 to, say, 56 or 57, that's a real tough call for a young actor to do. So that was challenging, but it was also a lot of fun.
On the days that we have to be old, we have to go in early, and then they start laying this glue on our face, spirit gum, and putting on the pieces, and it takes hours and hours, and it smells bad. And then they start painting it, but by the time they start painting it, you start seeing this, like, living sculpture evolve. When I had my old makeup on, I drove home because my mom was staying with me, and walked in the door and said, "Hi, Mom," and she walked out and she went,
Mark?
Well, when you walk onto that back lot, it's so perfect, it's so detailed. I mean, so much work has gone into it. It is 1955. I mean, you're there. You look around, and everywhere you look, you see the travel store, 10 Days in Cuba, you see the cars and everything. And it makes it very easy for the actor.
A film like this is very, very interesting because very few films have been done in this period as of this date. This is going back to a period that people think is too recent to become a period film, and yet we've tried to give it a real period look. One of the ways we're able to do that is to push the film visually back a little farther than 55. Because if we're right on in 55, what happens is that it almost looks a little too new. I use a great deal of photographic research. Usually I delve into a lot of Light magazines, Look magazines, books on the 50s, books on the 40s, even looking at films that were made in that period. And all of a sudden you start coming up with a visual concept.
That was always one of the major elements of the story, even in its earliest incarnation, which was to take a place and show what happens to it over a period of 30 years. What happened to everybody's hometown is obviously the same thing. They built the mall out in the boonies, and it killed all the business downtown, and everything changed. A real location was out because nobody was going to let us shut down their town to make it over into the 50s and then remake it over. So what we did was we used the Universal back lot, and we realized that the smart way to do was to shoot all the 1950s stuff first, make the town look beautiful and pristine and wonderful for the 50s, and then just totally trash it down for the 1980s stuff, which is what we did.
The decision to have this size ensemble and take this direction came down while Bob was shooting the high school dance sequence. At that time, Bob was doing 5 things at once, and I walked in, I had seen a rough cut, and I walked up to Bob and I said, "Bob, I see we can go 2 ways. We can go this way, contemporary, we can go big score." And he turns around and he goes, "Al!"
Big. I kept telling Al that all I wanted was the score to be big. as you know, you make a film, you start to get a little bit paranoid that you don't have any vistas and giant shots. And Al and I had just done Romancing the Stone together, and we had jungles and waterfalls and a lot of stuff like that. So I told Al, make it big, open the movie up.
It's a very fundamental story, and it kind of gave us license to do this kind of overblown fantasy, old-fashioned movie score, which was a thrill. It's exciting to be in a room and hear all these people playing together, 98 people. I've been told it's the largest orchestra ever assembled in the history of Universal Pictures.
Huey Lewis is doing 2 songs for us, and he's also appearing in the film in a small cameo part.
Well, it's a new thing for me, you know, this acting. I didn't really prepare. They told me they wanted me to wear a brown suit and be a real nerdy thing. I couldn't really see the part, you know. If this is on MTV, I'm finished. Are you kidding? History. What happened to Huey Lewis? I don't know. He did a little bit part, and nobody ever heard of him again. It's my acting debut, you know, which I'm taking very seriously. Oh, fellas, could we have the other band, please? Thank you.
Okay, good. Now, Huey, what you want to do is you want to just stay up there with the megaphone screaming at these guys until they stop.
Okay.
And here we go.
Partner?
Hey. And
Next, please. Next group, please.
Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, be good.
Back to the Future is a comedy, adventure, science fiction, time travel, love story.
It's just got everything in it.
Yeah, it's an action comedy, adventure, coming of age film. Musical.
Lascia. Vediamo se viene lì a salvarlo.